Are you going to say anything, David?
I don't know. I didn't know you kind of delivered it all. I was waiting for my moment.
We're still rolling. What are you going to say, David?
Do we do that again, or do you want
No, just do it now.
If you want to work on some brilliant...
No, let's do it again. Coming up, we thought there would be change in the agency landscape. It has begun. Hello and welcome to IDCom's MediaSnack, episode 69. Today, we're going to look at news that Havas Group are merging creative and media into a single P&L and creating a full-service agency again.
Accenture Interactive on making a play to push in-house programmatic.
Yep. And if you've ever fancied working at IDComs, we're going to tell you how. All coming up in MediaSnack in just the time it takes to eat a sandwich. Okay, so first off, if you've watched a few MediaSnacks so far this year, you'll know that we made the word change was our word of the year. Yeah. And in early episodes earlier this year, we talked about change and how the impact on advertisers, on agencies, and also on accountability. In this episode, we're going to focus on some stories of really significant change when it comes to the agency landscape. Yeah, that's right. The first one is that Havas Group have decided to bring together their media and, well, actually all of their different kind of agency assets, but primarily their kind of media and creative assets, agencies, and merge them in a full service model with a single P&L.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a really interesting play by Havas. Whilst most of the other groups, I think, are still trying to create discipline silos. Publicis Media was the big reconstruction for Publicis Group last year. We see Havas making a massive bet on kind of bundling together their creative offering and their media offering. Yeah. They've obviously placed both both companies in the same location in Havas Village, but now what they've said is that they're going to operate with one P&L. Yeah,
and that's something that they've been on a journey to do that, and I think we've talked about it before, which is creating this village. It's like bringing all their agencies into one shared physical location. We're seeing other agency groups kind of doing the same, and the UK Group M have kind of assembled a lot of their agency assets, or actually WPP have assembled a lot of their agency assets in single locations. Same with Omnicom as well. They've kind of brought a lot of their agency together. So you can see that's been happening, but this is a different level. Yeah, this is a single P&L, and it's responding to what advertiser demand, do you think?
I mean, we've talked about the fragmentation of scopes of work. So the conversations that we're having with clients now are all about identifying best-in-class suppliers along the entire kind of marketing communications chain. And I think that's what Havas are preparing themselves for the future for. They're making a bet that they can provide those solutions by accessing the best talent within Havas Group. Yeah. Okay, without the natural commercial barriers that would exist in normal kind of group organizations.
Yeah. Now, you said something really interesting there, which is not unusual, but the word suppliers, because we need a new word.
Did I say suppliers?
Yeah, you said suppliers. There's nothing wrong with the word suppliers particularly. I think some agencies have an issue with the word suppliers because it sounds commoditized. But the principle of that, and we've been in meetings recently and conversations recently where we talk about agencies and we've had to check ourselves, or we've had a client, advertiser, say to us, it's not just agencies anymore. Yeah. When you talk about management consultants coming into the space, when you talk about tech companies kind of getting involved, when you talk about other types of businesses, they're not agencies, and they don't call themselves agencies. And so, what should we call them? Yeah. And so, this is a call. I mean, we need a new name because advertisers are not just buying services from agencies anymore.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Maybe we do call them suppliers. Perhaps we should just call them suppliers for now, and then we'll just see if
they can be
partners. Yeah. But this is the thing. I mean, this is why we are in a post-consolidation world now, which sounds quite dramatic. But what we mean by that is that the vast majority of the market, the major advertisers, have gone through some form of consolidation. Yeah. So they've gathered together their billings and working with one or two key agency partners in most territories around the world. That's where we are right now. There was news today was breaking of the PSA, the car group, had launched what they called a consolidation pitch. Having worked with many different agencies, kind of want to get down to one or two. Yeah. We've managed many consolidation pitches over the years. I think now, if you're a marketer, you're a CMO, and you have rationalize your agency roster to one or two, let's say, single agencies globally. You've applied some consistency and common standards across that. Where do you go next? You can't consolidate anymore.
No.
So that cost efficiency, which has probably driven a lot of that consolidation, is kind of that opportunity is kind of gone.
Yeah.
So where do you now build effectiveness? And that's probably now prompting them to think about scope.
Then it comes from thought leadership, and it comes from strategy, and it comes from developing a real partnership relationship. And so I think what most progressive clients are doing now is they're very clear what the stages are of that marketing communications process and what they are requiring from a partner, from a best-in-class partner. And that's what I think Havas are preparing themselves for.
Yeah.
They are allowing themselves to be agile and reactive to the more interesting progressive briefs that come into play in the marketplace.
Because it's just going to be a point of difference. It gives them an opportunity. They don't really trade on scale. Havas Media, when it comes to media, represent 5 or 6% of global media negotiations. So they are, of the big 6 traditional kind of media agency groups, they've always been the smallest, not always been the smallest, but they are the smallest. This is a way for them to kind of, continue to be relevant and be challenging and get on the pitch lists with a new proposition.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see where other agency groups go with this, because in that consolidation world where it was all about scale and leverage and discount, everyone's been racing to the same place, which is to just gather together billings and be able to leverage scale. So everybody's just been competing to be bigger than everybody else. In a post-consolidation world,
it's about flexibility.
It's about flexibility, but it's also, it's flexibility and agility of that model, but also the talent and the kind of the philosophy and the operating model of the agency and the culture of the agency.
And that's why I think this
differentiators.
Yeah, and that's why I think this is so clever. I mean, Cara or Dentsu Aegis have played on the fact that they operate with one single P&L across all of their markets to massively, positive effect. Because it allows them to, in theory, deliver against the client's requirements. And that's what I think Havas have said. They've said, right, listen, bring those really progressive, interesting blueprint briefs to us, and we will show you how we will be able to give you access to the best talent across all of our portfolio of agencies to deliver exactly what you want moving forward.
Yeah. So let's see how other agencies evolve, the agency groups evolve across this year, because I think we're starting to see perhaps that they are diverging, they're fragmenting their positions now.
And also how Havas Group perform in what we believe is going to be quite a busy pitch year.
Indeed.
So following on from fragmentation of scope, the UK MD of Accenture Interactive was on a panel earlier this week, and he talked about the work that he's doing with his key clients in providing them with strategies and solutions for bringing programmatic trading in-house. I mean, that's a massive play. So, Accenture Interactive are the biggest digital collection of agencies in the world anyway, right? But they predominantly deal in tech and internal transformation, and in most recently in creative. But now they're using their consulting privilege to help advertisers bring strategies internally to deliver programmatic buying. And that's a massive play.
I think it was a kind of comment on a campaign, one of campaign's breakfast briefings, but it's got the headlines. And it's an important statement, because I think it's the first time that Accenture Interactive have really talked about media buying. You know, they've, as you say, they've focused in these other areas, and they've said that they won't go into the media buying business, but the idea of using their resources and their kind of consulting expertise and the relationships, the very deep, high-level relationships that they have with a lot of brands, a lot of advertisers, to help guide decision-making, to help advertisers take a bit more control of media buying. Is really interesting, because they're obviously very well positioned to do that. They're kind of very tech savvy, and as I say, you know, trusted consulting resource. So I think it's something that everyone was expecting, but for it to be said now publicly is really, you know, it's one of these like big alerts now for if you're a traditional kind of media buying agency.
I mean, you've seen this trend happening, right? You see advertisers bringing elements of programmatic trading in-house. You know, and there are many other advertisers out there considering it. Yep. But often the reason that they don't do it or they don't act upon it is because they're not quite sure how best to do it.
Yep.
Now, you know, one of the biggest consulting firms in the world has just said, well, that's the solution that we can provide you.
Yep.
You know, we can provide the resources, the talent, and the know-how to enable advertisers to bring it in-house.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big statement.
It is. And I think it's quite clever of them to do that. It's the right entry point, I think, for them in the media buying area, because they're effectively stewarding and advising advertisers on how to remove media buying from their media buying agencies. So that's a kind of big call. So we'll see how much momentum that gathers. I mean, as we say, we think that they're well placed to be able to offer this advice. We think that there's a good appetite amongst advertisers, at least to learn this, because, you know, as we've said a number of times now, you know, we will see advertisers learn how to procure media, not just how to procure agencies. Right. They will, you know, increasingly take more control and be more involved in the buying of media, in the deal making themselves. You know, and it would make sense for these kind of companies, you know, with deep IT expertise and consulting expertise, to help facilitate those types of processes. There is change happening on the agency landscape. So finally, we are looking for brilliant people. Our teams, both in London and New York, are expanding here at ID Comms, and we're recruiting at all different levels. So that we'll provide a link down below. Please get in touch, send us your CV. We'd love to speak to you. And also, as of the beginning of April, we open our summer intern applications as well. So if you are a graduate or graduating and looking to get into marketing consulting, we'd love to speak to you.
Come and join us.
And finally, before we go, you'll see below there'll be a link to our next Media Change webinar, which is one of our monthly webinars. Next week, we're going to be talking about our 2017 Media Thinking report, which has been fascinating. And that looks at how strategic advertisers are being about media and what they could do about it. So click below, please register, and we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. So that's it for this week. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.
Have a good weekend.